Welcome to 14th century London, a place where death is not a possibility, it is a guarantee. Why wouldn't you survive more than 24 hours here? You would be forced to choose between eating the flesh of your own kind to stave off starvation or waiting for blackened buboes to swell and burst directly on your body. Every cough, every step on the mud-choked streets, every glance you meet is a threat. Today, AI technology will resurrect that darkness. We are about to step into the most brutal 24 hours of survival in human history. Don't blink. Because on this journey, a single misplaced breath is enough to turn you into a number on the midnight corpse cart. You have a 2% chance of seeing tomorrow's sunlight. Let the death clock begin. 8 a.m. When hunger becomes a death sentence. You wake up on a pile of damp straw crawling with fleas inside a collapsing attic, dwelling on the outskirts of Shoreditch. The first thing that greets you is not a phone notification, but a sharp twisting pain in your stomach. This is not the kind of hunger you get from skipping breakfast in the 21st century. This is hunger so severe that your organs are contracting, trying to grind themselves apart from the inside. The AI pulls the frame tight against your body. Your hands tremble, drained of all strength. Your fingernails are brittle and dull, stripped of color by severe mineral deficiency. Your skin clings to bone like wet paper pressed against stone.
Don't let the number 1348 fool you.
The ghost of 1315 is still tightening its grip around this city.
30 years of hunger have turned your immune system into a cruel joke. Now, it is nothing more than a fortress made of scrap paper, and believe me, it will collapse long before the plague ever knocks on your door. But look through the crack in the rotting wooden window, down toward the narrow square below. They, your neighbors, are lingering out there with the eyes of hunting animals. They are no longer the people you once knew. Hunger has erased what little humanity they had left. I will show you a horrifying truth hidden behind the stone walls of Newgate prison. In that foul, lightless darkness, the prisoners no longer wait for the guards to bring food. They begin to look at one another and calculate who will be the next source of protein. Historical records do not exaggerate. They turned cannibalism from a nightmare into a basic survival strategy. Step down into the dark, mud-soaked streets, and you will see mothers curled inward clutching their children in the shadows beneath London's city walls. They hide their children not from wild beasts, but from starving neighbors roaming outside, driven mad by hunger. That wretched crowd understands one bitter truth all too well in this world. If you can't find something to put in your mouth, you are what's on the menu this morning. When morality is crushed by hunger, anyone can become the next prey on the plate. What is your choice now? Chew on a torn piece of old leather shoe to trick your stomach, or risk everything fighting over a rotting rat carcass with those outside? Choose quickly. This is only the first hour of your death march. 12 p.m. A river of blood and filth. Forget your empty stomach for a moment, because the instant you step outside at midday, you realize this. In this city, the stench is sometimes far more bearable than the invisible things drifting through the air. 12 p.m. If you haven't collapsed from hunger yet, it's time to step outside in search of water. But forget clean mineral bottles in the alleys around Cheapside. Clean water is a myth that simply does not exist. Look down. As your neighbors empty their buckets of waste straight from the windows, splashing at your feet, you finally understand that London has no concept of sanitation. Through the AI's lens, this street becomes a death soup, a churning mixture of human excrement and rotting refuse, waiting to swallow the legs of the next unlucky victim. Look toward the Smithfield slaughterhouses over there. Butchers casually carve livestock right in the middle of the street. They toss the unwanted entrails aside, letting fresh red blood run into the River Thames, mixing with the open sewage and mud. They don't care if the sight makes you sick, because here the stench of death is the only air left to breathe. But this rotting stench is only a mild discomfort compared to the invisible death stalking all around you. Hold your breath, because we are entering the epicenter of pneumonic plague. In the sweltering heat and damp air of a London summer, clouds of Yersinia pestis do not disperse. They hang suspended like ghosts throughout the narrow alleys. All it takes is a passerby coughing once beneath the ancient stones of St. Paul's, an act that seems harmless, but is in reality a biological detonation. Millions of microscopic bacteria are released, forming a lethal mist that closes in around you. They don't need a flea's bite, they only need one deep breath from you. Once inside, these microscopic killers latch onto your lung tissue, begin their assault, and turn your respiratory system into a mass of putrid fluid within hours. Your chest will feel as if it's on fire, and every attempt to draw in oxygen is in truth an invitation for millions more death sentences to flood deeper into your body. In the 21st century, breathing is life. But here at the heart of this bacterial death, soup breathing itself, is the fastest form of suicide. In the 21st century, a deep breath helps you calm down, but here, one misplaced breath is a death sentence. The crowd around you is exhaling death, and you are swimming in it. All it takes is a small cut on your leg while wading through the filth piled beneath London Bridge, and the bacteria will enter your bloodstream faster than you can beg for help. My AI presents you with a calculation. You are standing between an alley choked with human excrement and a road running with livestock blood from the slaughterhouses. You must walk barefoot through one of them to find water. Do you choose filth, or do you choose blood? Remember, every small cut beneath your feet is a VIP ticket straight into the arms of death. 4 p.m. When death rises beneath the skin. It is time for death to remove its invisible mask. Right at the bustling docks of Billingsgate, look down into the gutters at your feet. The black rats that once ruled this city are dying in droves, their bodies stiff and rotting where they fall. This is a sign of annihilation when the rat hosts are gone. Billions of starving fleas abandon the cold carcasses in search of new targets, and that target is you. The Black Death does not end your life gently. It wants you to taste hell before you close your eyes. Watch the passerby staggering as he leans against the stone wall of Newgate prison ahead. Beneath his armpits and in his groin, buboes are swelling to the size of oranges, grotesquely taut, glossy, and ready to burst. They begin as a fiery red, then rapidly turn deep purple and pitch black as the tissue inside starts to rot. The pain is so unbearable that the victim screams in madness until the buboes finally burst, spraying a foul mixture of reeking pus and thick black blood across the stones of Fleet Street. The stench pouring from these open wounds is so overwhelming that even the flies recoil in horror. But look down at your own arm. If you see tiny black hemorrhagic spots beginning to spread, what people of the time bitterly called the mark of God, then understand this: your expulsion order from the living world has already been signed. By now, your lymphatic system is no longer a shield. It has become a battlefield utterly lost. The bacteria are spilling back into your bloodstream, tearing through your internal organs from within, and turning you into a walking corpse among the crowds fleeing across London Bridge. Don't waste your strength on prayer, because once those black marks appear, your hourglass holds less than 12 hours of sand. In the 21st century, medicine gives you hope, but in London, 1348, death does not negotiate. It takes him only half a day to erase a human existence completely, and when darkness falls, physical pain gives way to something far more terrifying: the total collapse of faith and humanity. 8 p.m. When faith dies before humanity. Night falls, but no prayers are spoken. In London, 1348 heaven seems to have shut its gates. The churches that were once the last refuge now stand in terrifying silence. The priests, those meant to guide your soul, have barred their heavy wooden doors, refusing blessings or baptisms out of sheer terror of infection. The church bells that once signaled life have fallen silent simply because there is no one left with the strength to pull the ropes. But listen. Within that deathly silence, a sound cuts through the air, rising from the darkest alleys behind the ancient stones of St. Paul's Cathedral. Whoosh! Crack! Under the flickering torchlight, casting gigantic ghost-like shadows across the stone walls of Cheapside, you encounter processions of flagellants advancing through the streets, their movements accompanied by low, groaning chants of prayer. Look closely at their bare backs. My AI recreates every horrifying detail. These zealots believe the plague is a scourge sent from heaven, and that the only way to appease God's wrath is to turn their own bodies into blood-soaked altars. In their hands are tightly braided leather whips, their tips studded with razor-sharp iron nails or jagged pieces of lead. With every step, they swing their arms and lash across their own shoulders, the sound of metal biting into flesh, then tearing free, ripping living tissue apart, until the back is nothing but a mangled mass of raw, crimson, glistening meat. As they march across London Bridge, the wounds run so deep that white bone is exposed beneath fresh blood, spraying in rhythm with each strike, splattering the ground and the horrified onlookers alike. In the air, thick with the iron stench of blood and the reek of torch oil, faith has completely rotted into absolute madness. This is no longer a prayer ritual. This is a feast of suffering, where humans carve their own flesh in the desperate hope of bribing a God who has already turned his back on them. But don't linger to witness this madness for too long. When prayers at Westminster Abbey no longer deliver miracles, the crowd begins to turn towards something far more violent, hunting for sinners to sacrifice to appease God's wrath. A brutal reality is unfolding right along the crowded banks of the River Thames. In the narrow, lightless alleys of Southwark, where darkness conceals the most unspeakable crimes, faith has been completely replaced by bloodlust. They need someone to blame for the corpses piling up like mountains around them. If you are a stranger, someone with a different accent, or simply wearing clothes unlike the locals at Smithfield Market, you become the perfect target for massacres carried out in the name of religion. Imagine yourself being cornered against a cold, damp stone wall, surrounded by gaunt faces, eyes blazing with fanatic fire, and hands tightening their grip around axe handles. The fanatic crowd advances toward you with torches and axes in hand. They need a sinner to blame for the plague. Will you point to the stranger standing beside you to save your own life, or accept being butchered in the name of a God who has already abandoned you? You have 5 seconds to decide before the axe meets your neck. In the 21st century, you seek answers from laboratories and science. But under the flickering torchlight of 1348, the only answers you receive are the crack of whips tearing flesh and the murderous stares of your fellow humans. Your life is now terrifyingly fragile, threatened not only by the plague bacteria ravaging your lungs, but also by the madness of those who believe that spilling your blood will soothe the wrath of the divine. 4 a.m. When humans become numbers. As the last torches flicker out and the screams of the fanatic crowd fade into the darkness, London ceases to be a machine that produces corpses. It is time to face 4 a.m., when named individuals are reduced to anonymous numbers beneath a blanket of blinding white lime. The night is nearly over, and that is when London is at its most terrifying. Amid the thick, icy fog rising from the River Thames, a familiar cry echoes like a summoning dirge. Bring out your dead. Bring out the bodies of the dead. Under the dim glow of lantern light, heavy wooden carts sag under impossible weight as they roll through the silent streets of Aldgate. The AI reconstructs a chilling scene. The bodies of rich and poor alike are thrown together, stacked like ownerless cargo. No status remains, no honor, only cold masses of flesh being transported for disposal. The AI takes you to the vast mass burial pits of East Smithfield. Here, human existence is reduced to brutal statistics. You see thousands of skeletons stacked mechanically packed tight like slices of bread in a colossal oven. To contain the fury of the plague, shadowy figures begin pouring down sack after sack of blinding white lime. The AI recreates the scene in its most haunting form. Fine grains of lime drift through the air like snowfall in midsummer, but instead of bringing cool relief, they scorch everything they touch. Under the torchlight, this layer of lime appears as a colossal chemical shroud, fizzing and smoking as it comes into contact with bodily fluids. It mercilessly devours the pathogens, while at the same time erasing the last remaining features from the faces of those you once loved. No name carved in stone, no priest's prayer, not even a single tear to see you off. In this pit, you are no longer a human being with dreams or memories. You are merely a package stacked in layers, waiting to be sealed beneath the cold white shroud. In a single night, every trace of your existence is wiped from the flow of history, as if you had never been here at all. In the 21st century, you fear being forgotten on social media. Here you are forgotten in a pit of white lime beneath a street where people will one day build skyscrapers above your bones. Your 24-hour journey in London, 1348, ends here. In the lime pit at East Smithfield, distinctions of wealth or power mean nothing. All that remains are anonymous skeletons stacked upon one another. My AI presents a truth you have just passed through a single day, that 1/3 of the world's population would never survive. In the 21st century, you fear loneliness. But in 1348, the greatest fear was being erased entirely from humanity's memory. Do not let history be forgotten. If you want to continue immersing yourself in the harshest survival journeys and exploring the darkest corners recreated by I subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications right now. And leave a comment to confirm that you survived this video. Don't miss the next journey, because I will soon take you back into another catastrophe even more devastating than this one.